what makes you think when he said you're going to do meth
This.
all day, all night,
Yeah.
because it's cold? Like he said, he demanded you stay with him overnight. And in what way that code of ethics in your drugged brain made okay?
Made that okay. Well, here's the thing: is when I was like 17, someone did some like really messed up stuff to me for quite some time, and I had, I physically like leave and try to get away, and this person would show up at my house, at my high school, like
And your parents
everywhere.
cannot protect you.
Well, he told me that if I said anything, he was going to kill them, which I
And you
stupidly
believed
it, right? And it took a
And
while.
it's not even a family member.
No, this was just somebody outside, and it took a while for somebody else finally helped me get away from this person because I finally said something to them, and so I was kind of like, traumatically like messed up from that for a while, and that's how I started doing drugs, and then my drug addiction got so bad that I just didn't really care anymore, for one, and the other thing was it was like, he had me like believing that, oh well, I couldn't get meth without him, oh well, they're not going to sell to you, blah blah blah, because they're my friends. I found out that was total bullshit, I mean,
He's playing with your mind.
oh, of course, yeah. So I mean, like if you like I didn't need him whatsoever, but he wanted me to believe that because he would take my money, go give it to them. I was the one paying for it all the time. He never had money.
And he's the same guy who abused you too.
No, this is a different guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I've had bad.
you went from one bad guy to another bad guy.
Right. Well, it was because I started doing drugs, and then that's how I ended up with him, and it was similar to the first guy. Like, at first they start off and they're normal, and then as time goes by,
The demon comes out.
Yeah, right, and he had me believing like, oh well, these are my friends, they're not going to sell to you, they'll only sell to me, which was total BS. And I figured that out later. Like, if you have money, they'll sell to you. They don't care as long as they know who you are. You know what I mean? And I have been using with them for months, so they know I'm not a cop or something. You know what I mean? So like, I figured it out after a few months that I didn't really need him, and I started pulling away, and he would come and find me and do similar stuff, and I ended up getting away from him because he finally went to jail, and it was like, hallelujah.
So that winter was when 2014.
It was I think it was 2000 because I graduated high school in 2013. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. And then I did a year of college, so it was probably 2015 was that winter.
And where did you go to college from?
I went to Colby-Sawyer College for a year up in New London, New Hampshire, and I did a semester at UMass Lowell, and it was like partway through that semester that.
But what were you?
Oh, graphic design.
And so at that point, you encountered this guy through the college?
No. I had graduated high school, went to the college for a year. I was with somebody else that was a decent person, and he ended up cheating on me a bunch of times and leaving or whatever. And then I had to move back home because I couldn't afford the apartment and all the tuition up there. So I moved back home with my mom, and I did a semester at UMass Lowell. And it was during that semester that I started using drugs because I had like a lot of issues from all the stuff that had happened. And so like I barely made it through that semester, and I just like didn't re-enroll because like at that point I was a drug addict and I knew it. You know what I mean? So
that's how through the addiction you met this another guy.
Oh yeah, I met some of like the most messed up demonic people. Like
And then he forces you to spend the whole night or whole season.
Basically, yeah, so he could have my kind of sleep in.
And how many days did it take for you to say, I don't want to take this course?
Probably like 2 months as well.
2 months.
Wow.
So you were like in a slumber for 2 months.
Yeah, well, I mean, because because my addiction with the meth was so bad,
You see the guy who introduced you meth? You see the guy who introduced you to meth, or you were already on meth before you met him?
No, he was the one that brought me. Before I was doing drugs, I ran into him because I had known him from one of my other friends. Didn't really know he was like a bad person because like once again he just seemed like a normal person, and I hadn't seen him for months, and we ran into each other, and oh, let's hang out. So we like hung out for a day or two, and then it was either like the second or the third day, and he was like, "Oh, you want to go meet my friends?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he brings me to this trap house, and like the only thing I had ever done before that was like hunt. So like to me it was like oh my god, like there's just people like shooting off and all this other stuff, and I didn't use the first time I went there, and for some reason I went back a second time.
On your own or with this guy?
With this guy, yeah, and I didn't use the second time, and it was the third time that I went back that I finally used. And I think the reason that I got so addicted to it was because I was so messed up in the head from all the other stuff that had happened, and like I just like I couldn't deal with like life anymore, because like I had tried to go get help and I couldn't really get the help. And like I mean, I eventually like I just kind of like wanted to die, because I just couldn't, I was like so messed up.
So you
from
hit
it.
the bottom the day when you went back the third time.
Yeah, so yeah, when I went back that third time, is when I got high for the first time. And that first time I got high, I finally felt like okay. I was like, oh my god, this is the answer, like crystal meth. You know what I mean? It was like some profound epiphany or something, which is not even that. It's like the drugs that lie to you, because the different pieces of your brain that they interact with, or whatever you want to call it. And so then I was really got into that for quite some time, and then eventually I just started doing other drugs and having a problem with other drugs, and then it turned from being using it to get over the issues to now I'm just a drug addict and have drug problems.
So let's recap that moment you felt you were not being answered. Was it not supporting you emotionally, so you went back the third time? Who do you think you could have rescued your soul the third time?
Oh well, I mean, probably one of my parents, but I didn't tell them that I went there. Because I mean, for one, I was still really kind of confused, and um,
So emotionally, you didn't get support from your parents.
yeah, but I also didn't say a lot of stuff to them because I didn't really know how they would react. Like for example,
So you hid from them.
yeah, I mean, I was living there, but I didn't tell them that was going on. Like for example, that first person that did all that stuff to me, it took like over a year for me to finally say something. It took a long time, and so basically because of that, like I had finally tried to go see a couple therapists, and the first one I saw, like we didn't even like actually, like my dad was with me, we didn't even actually physically get to see her in the appointment yet. Like we were at the facility for this appointment, and I mean, she was just like the rudest person to me, to everybody in the office, like to all the other clients. It was like a shit show that day, and we were like, all right, like we left. We didn't even like have the appointment. And then the next one I went to go see, I saw her for like maybe 3 or 4 months, but every time I would try to start, you know, bringing up the trauma that I needed to talk about, she would just say, "Oh, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that." And needless to say, we'd never get to it. I think she just didn't really want to talk about it. And so
So
eventually,
she kind of ran her own program
yeah, so
rather than listening
instead
to
of
you.
listening to, right, yeah. So I eventually was like, all right, well, that's not working. So,
And why didn't you have the courage to tell your dad directly yourself?
about what had happened. Oh, I did eventually. I did after like that
No, but
year.
like, why did you eventually say, why did you use those two broken opportunities to open up with your dad? What
And
prevented
tell
you?
him that the therapists weren't doing anything.
No, like what happened in your life? Why couldn't you didn't have emotional rapport with him that time?
Well, no, I mean like, him and I were pretty good, but I just didn't know how he would react.
So you projected maybe there's a chance he'll flip out.
I either thought he would flip out, or I definitely knew that he would try to go kill this person.
So
That
you're still protecting the other guy indirectly.
Not really though. Like I didn't want it to be a whole big mess. And the third thing was that other individual still told me that if I said anything, that he would kill me and all of my family. And he had me so ingrained believing that, even after I had got him away. I didn't, because my father's been disabled now for like years. Like he's got serious medical issues. I mean, he's been disabled since I was like a little kid. And you know, I didn't want, like, and I love my parents, the rest of my family, some of them, I love some of them, the majority on both sides, I could care less about because, they could care less about me too. And, like my mom's side, I grew up watching them get drunk, and her and I would have to watch the kids every Christmas Eve, and, they're all fighting each other. Yeah, so basically, like, I didn't really have much of a family on the other side, very little, and I didn't want him to go, hurt, or I didn't think he could, I didn't know really if he would actually kill them, but I knew he was capable of hurting them. I knew fact he was capable of hurting them.
So you didn't want him to be legally hurt.
Right.
You're trying to kind of protect your father. Too.
Right. Yeah.
So
it was
the third episode, when you totally hit the bottom, what happened?
When you
went back to the frat house or whatever it is you call it.
I mean, I just started using drugs with them, and then
no, but like something emotionally goes wrong, right?
Oh, that third time I went back when I decided to get high.
So what happens that day?
Well, I know, I mean, a lot of it's foggy, but what I do remember is I remember the second time I had gone back. The first time I went there, I was like totally horrified with everything that was going on. Second time I went back, I still don't really know why I went back. I think it was because all those people were like really happy or something. They seemed like at peace in a really like messed up way. And I think maybe that's what I wanted, like, but I didn't understand that was the wrong kind of feel good. I just saw you, and well, the other reason too was, a lot of those people understood me. I've always been kind of like, the outcasts, because like I'm very unique, but I'm really different to a lot of other people. Which, like, I'd rather be like that than a robot, you know what I mean? But
so indirectly, they're influencing you,
yeah,
showing happy face.
Yeah, I mean, like they not really. I don't know, like really how to put it, but like they accepted me for who I was. They understood me, and I understood them, and like I remember that second time that I had gone back, one of them spent like 20 minutes smoking meth and glorifying this drug like as if it was Jesus in the flesh. I mean, he
was in love with it.
He was in love with it, and he still is. And I remember the first thought that came in my head after that 20 minutes was, wow, I'm gonna end up like that if I do that. Jesus, I don't want to end up like that. I remember thinking that. And then I remember that third time I went back,
the third time I went back, before you finish that, I want you to start the day with me. What happens in your home, bro? Because there's something that goes wrong.
Well, I think what went wrong, I don't really remember much of the day before that, but I do know that before I went back there, I was having a really hard day, like mentally, emotionally, because I mean, like, the shit that happened, like, I would think about that shit all day, every day, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I was already getting to the point a few months leading up to this where, like, I didn't even want to live anymore. And I think I just kind of, like, I had that final, like, fuck it moment,
What causes that to happen?
Because I couldn't deal with the mental, emotional pain.
No, but like something tips the scale that day, right?
Right.
What is that tipped the scale?
I don't know. The fact that it was either try this and see if this works, or go commit suicide, because that's about where I was at.
But what created that moment of utter dissolution?
Not being able to deal with it anymore.
No, but
I already
it,
tried to go and get help and everything, though.
But like something also goes wrong with your family that day, right? Like meaning like
Not
that
really.
day, is there anything else happening that like creates a moment of extra stress rather than regular?
Honestly, I really don't remember much of the day. I remember I went to my class, my college class.
So this happens away from home.
Yeah, no, this wasn't that far from home. I mean, this was like down the street from where I lived, was where this trap house was. I lived in Hudson. The house was in Nashua. It wasn't that far.
So no, that day when you chose to go to attend, right?
Hmm.
Were you living at home or were you in the dorm or where?
I was living with my mom at home.
So something like that's one thing to process. What exactly
Yeah,
is it transfer? Because you are always bringing up your dad as support system.
yeah.
So something happened to their mom that day.
Maybe, I mean, I don't really remember. I'd have to think about it. Like, one thing I've noticed is like as more time goes by, I've remembered more and more stuff, good and bad, from like when I was using and from before. You know,
And
like
did your relationship with your mom was not that good?
like it wasn't at the time. It really kind of never was. Her and I are really close now.
But
But
at that point, something didn't check out for you.
yeah, I mean, like I know at the time, like me and my mom weren't really that close. We kind of never really were. I mean, like I was living with her. My parents had been divorced since I was like 3, but I still saw both of them, and they were like civil with each other. It wasn't like some, crazy messy thing. I mean, like I still had the same crap that divorced kids go through. Like I was still put in the middle of a lot of stuff, but it wasn't like it wasn't as bad as it could have been, I guess. I
And
mean,
your mom, you couldn't connect with her because she kind of pushed you towards taking blame for your dad.
no, I mean, I like her and I just didn't really connect, but I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that she lost both her parents at a really young age. Like her dad took a heart attack when she was like 12, and her mom killed herself by the time she was like 21, 22. So she was a sis. She had three brothers and another sister, and I know she was one of the younger ones. So like I know she didn't really have a lot of time with her parents.
So
So
she was not very nurturing.
yeah, right. So like I understand now because like her and I had a lot of issues growing up. Like she didn't really like know how to be a parent is what I think it was. Like now that I'm old enough and I get it, I think it was too much stress on her. Like she because like my dad said before, she was fine before she got pregnant. She was fine when she was pregnant, and like after she had me, it was like her scale tipped. So like I think it was too
Too
much on
much
her. Like
stress.
she didn't know what to do. So like growing up, her and I would argue all the time, and she would try to basically keep me in like a metaphorical cage because like she didn't want anything to happen to me. I think you know what I mean because she was so, my
She
mom.
treated
My
you
mom's
like
like
a toy.
afraid. Well, I mean, kind of like she still loved me, but my mom's like afraid. My mom's really afraid of the world. I'm not, like, but I've been through hell and back, so I'm not really afraid of the world. But like my mom, like now I worry about something happening to her because like she can't deal with like if you know like trauma to her is like like, oh, the cat got lost and died or something, you know what I mean, like she can't like deal with that stuff mentally, like like if the house burned down, like god forbid, she'd probably die in the fire because she, you know what I mean, like she and she's got really stuff, so she can't even like really run to get out or like I know she's like afraid of the world, like she doesn't want to like drive home at night, like stuff like that.
So let's come back to the meth usage. So then you got involved with this guy and you have a code of ethics taught to you by him, which
Hmm.
kind of gives you a rule. If you're homeless, you need to support him rather than take care of yourself.
Right. And I mean, like, it got to the point where, like, I cared more about the drug than I did about my own health. I mean, even the first time I did it, like, I still remember the first time I did it. And, like, I just remembered thinking also during that couple hours or whatever, like, you know, like it was like, oh, like I remembered thinking like this is the answer, like this is what I want all the time, this is what I want to feel like all the time. Because another problem, and like this was why like I understand now like why that was probably the worst drug I could have tried, was like one, I'm wicked like ADHD, whatever you want to call it, so like those drugs are opposite for me. So like normally meth, will like speed people up, and a downer like heroin will bring you down. Well, me it's the opposite. like people that do ADHD, like, you know, I used to like shoot cocaine and fall asleep, you know what I mean? Like literally nod out, like as if I had done a shot of heroin. People are like, you know what I mean? So like it would bring me down on a normal level because I was always so like hyperactive and so much energy, and like my brain was always all over the place, and I had all these trauma issues, and like I took that first hit of meth and it was like everything calmed down, everything organized. I could deal with the trauma shit. I could lay it out and figure out why and how, and you know what I mean? Like it was like the missing key in the keyhole, and that's why it got as bad as it did.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Because I want to really get to the bottom of it. So after 2 months, what wakes up in your brain to say I'm going to be hitting sanity? Like what exactly goes right? After the 2 months of usage of meth,
yeah,
you said you would never do this winter anymore, right? Like something in you kicks in.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't just 2 months after using meth. I started using meth like in the summer, and I used it for probably, you know, about 4 to 6 months or so. My timeline's really bad too. 4 to 6 months of using meth, and then, you know, dealing with the winter, and like 2 or 3 months or so in the winter. And I finally just like, you know, I would have most nights where I would just have it, and I'd be like, you know, I'd have had it, and you know, I'm going home, I'm going to bed, I don't care, freeze your ass off, smoke all the meth you want, like, you know, I didn't want to do that anymore, and I would still, you know, like I would still, anytime I finally figured out, oh, I can get this drug, and I don't need you to do it, and I don't need to freeze all winter to do it.
So when finally your ability to be independent and powerful came back, you could break away from that.
Right. Yeah. But I mean,
but it still took, and this was in 2016.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Which is like a year. And then what made you ask for help? Were you in jail?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used for like about 4 years. I know that. Wait a minute.
So
see, my timeline's so off.
That's all right. So you were coming back to 2016. This is the last time you used drugs, right?
Yeah, but I was doing heroin then, so I must have started
switching from meth to heroin.
Yeah, like I know I graduated high school in 2013, and I did like a year of college. So 14, 15, 16. All right, so maybe it was like 3 years I used drugs. I don't know. The last day I used was May 26, 2016, and
why is the date very significant?
I'll tell you why. Because what happened was several different things, and like it's really weird. So the night before, I had run into, well, I should say the day before, I had run into one of my friends. I had 2 friends that did tattooing. One of them was in prison. The other one was still around, but he was always like a kind of a little bit of a paranoid too, because he was like change his number like all the time. So, you know, you'd have to like physically find him. And I had spent months like not really actively going out and like going up and down the streets looking for him, but like definitely like looking, you know, and you know, trying to, and you know, oh, have you seen Randy? Have you seen Randy? You know what I mean? And I bumped into him one day in like the funniest fucking way. I was pulled over on the side of the road with some shitty people in my backseat so we could go pick up heroin, and I was wicked sick, and we had pulled over and parked because she wanted to go in and get some money from her friend, so we would have enough to go pick up so she could screw that girl a little later. All right, whatever. Well, I'm doing my last shot because I'm sick, so I'm trying to do my shot, and like we're parked in like the worst spot you possibly could have been, and like I didn't care, you know, like it was like a huge drug spot, huge cop spot, and I just like I did not care. I was doing my fucking shot, and so we're pulled over, we're parked, and I saw like out of the corner of my eye, you know, I saw a car drive, like a black car drive by, and it's you know, drove by us, stopped, pulled over in front, backed right up to the front of my car, and I remembered like that caught my eye, and I looked up, and it was just a regular car. So I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, If it was a cop car, I would have stopped, but it was just a regular car. So I was like, oh, whatever. And so like I'm doing my shot, and someone comes over and knocks on the window, and I like fucking jumped out of my skin because I'm thinking it's a cop, and I'm like, like trying to like right, and it's my stupid friend that I've been looking for, and I'm like, dude, you just scared the shit out of me, and he's like, really, what you doing, really, right here, come on, and I'm like, dude, I've been looking for you for like 5 months, like, and so we talked for a minute. I got his new number, and he had just went down and picked up, so I was like, all right, well, let me bring these assholes down, and then I'll just come buy my shit off of you instead, because I'd rather get it from him. So I brought them down, dropped them off, went and hung out with him for the night at his apartment with his roommates or whatever. And I just remember, like, I physically bought, like, dope from him, but, like, we just all, like, shot a bunch of drugs all night. I mean, like, anytime I'd hang out with this person, like, he would just give out so much free drugs to, like, everybody. But he was, like, a wicked good friend, though, too. And, like, I know by the time I was gonna leave, it was like 1 in the morning or so. And even though I only lived like 5 minutes away, because I had, drugs on me and paraphernalia and everything, he was like, well, why don't you just stay here? It's 1 in the morning. You're gonna get pulled over, because we lived right by the bridge. And so I ended up staying there for the night. And the weirdest thing was like this heroin that he had got was like it was the weirdest thing, and like to this day, I still can't figure it. It would have to have had no naloxone in it, because it was like you would do it, and it was like taking away the dope sick, but then it would like make you dope sick. It was the weirdest thing. Like no matter how much you did, like you couldn't get well, and like now the only thing I can think of is it had naloxone in it or Suboxone or like it couldn't have been Suboxone because it wasn't making you physically. Well, no, it was like we weren't puking, but like we were getting sick, like we were getting sick, like really sick, like.
And why the date was significant?
And the date was significant because the next day, that same girl that was in my car the day before that I was bringing to Lawrence like every single day, this should have been the biggest red flag because the day before she had money and we were going to go to Lawrence, and then I bumped into him and I'm like, well, why don't we just get it from him instead of going all the way to Lawrence? You can have good dope right now, like probably better than what you're going to get in Lawrence. Oh no, I only want to see my guy. All right, fine. Well, then I'm going to buy dope from him later. I'll take you assholes down, drop you off, whatever, and then I'm going with him. And she was like insistent on seeing her guy down in Lawrence. Well, the next day, like, I don't know, 10, 11 in the morning, she called me and, oh, is your friend still in town? Because she wanted to buy a bag. Well, it was kind of weird to me because I was like, well, yesterday you wouldn't see him to save your life, and now this morning it's not even 12 hours later and you want to get something from him. Like, I thought it was weird, but I was so fucking sick. Like, I wasn't really putting it together. And like, I know, and it's crazy because like I came this close to not going because I was like so sick, and there was this other guy I was with at the time that was like, I don't know, way out. I forget how he ended up out in East Bumfuck stranded or something, and I was supposed to go pick him up or something. I don't even remember where he was, and I was supposed to like go pick him and somebody else up, and like they had a bunch of dope, and like, this is my boyfriend. I shouldn't be leaving him stranded. I should have went and picked him up. I had this weird stuff that made us sick, but technically I had dope, I guess, so it's not like I was going to physically withdraw. And like for some reason, instead of going and do that, which like any other time would have made so much more sense, you know what I mean, I ended up going with like, because this girl used to like cut everybody's bags and sell everybody like junk. So my friend that I stayed with the night, he only needed like $80 more to go pick up a finger of fentanyl. And I was like, well, let's sell this bitch a bag of sugar and go get a finger of fentanyl, because that sounds way better than going to get this asshole in East wherever. And so we were going to go do that. And so I can't remember if it was flour or sugar. He threw in a bag. And we went and we drove to like McDonald's, which is like the biggest spot to get set up at to go sell this. and we were going to do it inside, and she would not come inside to do it. And like that's the second biggest red flag, because if you go inside, even if you're a CI and you go in a bathroom to do it, they can't, like, the cops have to physically see you doing it with their confidential informant. If you're in a car, they can physically see the hand to hand. If you're, outside standing, they can see the hand to hand. But if you're inside, they can't see it, so they can't really prove it. So she would not go inside, and that should have been the biggest red flag. And so she ended up setting us up. So like I got pulled over. Like, I mean, I didn't even have time to turn on a McDonald's. I didn't even have time to make a traffic violation, and the blue lights were coming on. And I was like, I knew I got set up like right there. So we went to jail, and
So it was the day you went to jail.
it was the day I went to jail.
5/26, 2016.
Yeah, it was the day I went to jail. It was the last day I used. It was the last day I put a needle in my arm. It was the day I lost my car, and it was the day that I got clean, and the day that I detoxed that whole next week in cold turkey and thought I was gonna literally fucking die. Because the other shitty thing was the last dope I had was the dope that made you dope sick, right? And I had been shooting that all night, getting wicked sick from that all night, and then I detoxed from everything, cold turkey in a cell. So it was like,
So that's a turning point.
yeah, it was a huge turning point for me, because that was my first time in jail. Not my first time getting arrested, but like my first time in jail, and I spent the next like 2.5 months in jail. And finally, after like lying for 3 some odd years about how I'm not a drug addict, with every lie in the book pulling out my shoestrings to, like any possible thing, I finally admitted to both my parents that I had a problem and I wanted to get help. I knew I was a drug addict like back when I was doing the meth. I mean, like I already knew. It's just like,
So the minute your life turned around after the 2.5
Yeah.
months in jail,
yeah,
you never went back.
no, because I had
So you were just looking for answers. Only thing it came.
Well, because I had wanted to stop like months leading up to that. Like I wanted to stop so fucking bad. I'd be bawling my eyes out, screaming to the demons while I'm doing my shot, because I was so like it just specifically more like the meth does this than other drugs. Like you play around with like meth too much, especially if you start injecting it, like there's all this like demon stuff that happens. Like it's like opening a doorway, is the best way I can explain it. And
So to you, grace came in the form of Randy.
after what?
To you, the grace hit
Came
you.
in, right, yeah. So
And did you ever get a tattoo from him?
no, and okay, here's the funniest thing, right? He wanted to give me my first tattoo for free, right? And I didn't want to do it because I was like such a drug addict, and I was like, I don't have time to draw and figure it out. And like I'm an artist, like I love doing that stuff. And like I totally like, and I never got to tell him like, hey, by the way, I didn't set you up, right? Never got to.
Oh, he also went to jail with him.
Right. Well, but he had the 500 to bail himself out that night. I didn't.
Oh.
So I don't. So, and I know he didn't go to jail that night, because when they take everybody away that's gonna go to jail, like in the paddy wagon, like they have a door separating the males and the females. But of course, we're all talking to each other, like, all right, who's in here? Who are you? What'd you get arrested for? Like it's like now you got this fucking bond or something, and he wasn't in there that night. So like I know he didn't go to jail, and I saw him at the police station. I knew she had set me up. I wasn't stupid. I saw him at the police station, and I knew I didn't set myself up, so it was only her left. So like I finally in there got the paperwork that proves that I didn't set him up. Like I can prove to him that I did not set him up that day. Like I have.
So he was annoyed with you. Right?
Well, I don't know if he was upset or not, but
yeah. So finish your story. So did you get your tattoo?
No, but now that my court stuff's done, because they put a thing on that I can't talk to him. So now that the court stuff is done, I can go to my other tattoo friend and go, hey, call Randy, send this to him. That way I can get back in touch with him now and get my free tattoo.
I'm hoping the Christmas present.
I know, that'd be nice.